It's kind of empty in the garage for a change, which is a good thing. The 356 is out in the wild, and I've got it parked next to the Cabriolet. It's in a garage across town, and it's not that wild, but it made it across town. So now I have the transmission of Mac. Just as everything's driving, I've taken the engine and transmission out of Mac so that I can find out why it's popping out of third gear. So let's go over what this is and what the problem is. Number one, it is a 915 transaxle from a 1972. I can't actually make out the numbers on the bottom here because they're corroded. I can't read any of the numbers. It has the seal in the front here is a 1 year only. It's only changeable from internally. And then it also is magnesium, and it's the 731 ring and pinion. For what I paid for this was $1,200 shipped to me. I'm actually pretty impressed that it's drivable. It pops out of third gear, mostly when you're just coasting. If you're really on the gas, it'll stay in. But if you're kind of going on and off, coasting, light throttle, it'll pop out of third gear. It's quiet. You know, my car doesn't have any sound insulation at all, and I can't hear the transmission at all. First gear, it'll sometimes grind if you put it into gear too quickly, or if you're not come to like under 5 miles an hour, it'll grind if you just jam it in. So I'm thinking the synchros on number one are probably not great, and also the dog teeth are probably rounded to where sometimes you have to go to second to get it into first. Some alignment issues there. Is it going to be another can of worms? Probably. I've gone back and forth a few different times, adjusting the shift linkage, both in rotation and in distance, in very small increments, and driven the car, thought it made it better, but then it'll just pop out. Sometimes it pops out when it's cold, sometimes it pops out when it's warm. I've actually adjusted the motor mounts in the rear to sort of change the angle a little bit. Hopefully that would make a difference. Basically, no matter what I did, I couldn't get it to solve the issue with just linkage. You've probably already noticed this gizmo here on the shift rod, the shift selector. So basically, this is allowing me to try all the gears, just the transmission. So I can go into, like, this is first gear, this is second gear, this is third gear, fourth gear, and then rotate over here, and then this is fifth gear, and that's reverse. On the top here, I've labeled the different shift planes. So if this indicator points to this plane, this is the 1, 2, this is the 3, 4, and this is the 5 in reverse. So if I line this up and put it into third gear, that's third gear. And what I'm trying to reproduce here is in the car, the shifter, it's very easy to move it in and out of third gear. And so this is allowing me to do it back here, and it doesn't take much to get it out. So that's in, out. When I put it in, say, for instance, first gear, I have to push much harder, and I have to pull much harder. In fact, just with one hand, I can't do it and get to neutral. It goes right into second. If I put it into third, that's third. One, it goes in easier, and two, it comes out easier. It goes right to neutral. And then fifth gear, push pretty hard. I gotta pull pretty hard to get it. That goes all the way into reverse. So my feeling, and this is showing what happens in the car, is that the amount of force in the detents for third is just way different than it is for fourth or for first and fifth. Going into fourth gear, that's this one. It's easy to go into fourth gear as well, but it doesn't pop out of fourth gear. This is in the fifth and reverse plane. When I glide over the top of the shift forks, I can feel them very distinctly, but what happens is when I go from 5 to first, or from first to fifth, I can feel that this clamp is like moving in. So the alignment of the shift forks, I'm not sure that's supposed to do this. I would think they would all be, like this would not move in or out if you go from the first plane to the fifth plane, but it does. See there, they're touching, and I have pressure going in. That's touching, and then when I go to fifth gear, I can move it. And granted, that's not that much. It's probably like a 1/16 of an inch. That may make a difference. So to me, it seems like the adjustment is not in a linear way here. It's like on an angle. So first step is to just drain the oil. So I have this 6-point socket here. That's for the fill plug. So it'll fit on this one down here. This is just regular gear oil. It's not synthetic or high performance. It's looking pretty dirty. So here's the drain plug. I'll try to give you guys a close-up look. There is one little metal fragment here. There's that, and there's a little bit of fuzz. This thing is the reverse light switch. And another way to tell that this is an early transmission means that it has this mechanical speedometer connection, which I never had connected in Mac. I just haven't done it yet. I did have this nose piece off before because there was a leak in this section here. This gear looks fine. I kind of like the roll pin design here as opposed to the cotter pin. This is kind of cool. Oh, dang it. This does not fit. The spline is different on the 915 than it is the 741. I have this clutch disc that has a little bit of life left in it, so I'm not going to destroy it if I can avoid it. So I thought what I would do is just bolt this plate to it and also maybe clamp it on the edges and see if that'll secure it while I try to take that nut off the back of the input shaft. So see what I did here? I just bolted this to the pressure plate. These nuts aren't super tight. I didn't want to bend anything, but this is just C-clamped onto the friction material. So I think I should be able to snake this in here. And now when I torque it, it's going to run into that. So hopefully I can get it off. Actually, I need to put it this way. I don't like how it's bending the input shaft, so we're gonna have to do something better. Yeah, that's not good. I ended up welding an extension onto this vertical piece here so I can attach it right to one of the motor mounts. And then on the top, I've just clamped it. And the hope here is that this is gonna keep the disc centered because it can't go up or down anymore. Okay, that's on there tight again. I guess it's time to try the impact wrench. There we go, easy. Okay, this nut here has a lock tab on it, so it's bent over inside that slot. And I thought I would try to protect this tachometer gear just with a piece of conduit. So now I can put that up against there, kind of pry on it, hopefully get that open so we can try to buzz that nut off too. My screwdriver is not happy with the
stiffness of that tab. So. Okay, hopefully you can see that's the tab just bent up just enough. There's no threads on that that's going to get damaged. I didn't mark up the gear at all. It's a hardened gear. It's got some sharp edges to it, but those little chamfers, those little shiny spots, those are all the way around. That's no damage there at all. I'm going to try this one with hand tools, but no guarantees. Yep, it's on there tight. I can't tell if there's any Loctite on this, but it feels like there was, because once it breaks free, it does come off. That's the little detent that acts on this synchro ring right here. Real similar to the 741 356 transmission. And this piece doesn't look bad at all. Neither does the synchro. The synchro looks fine. This whole thing should come off. While we're at it, this can come off. There's some bearings inside there. So I'm going to put these here. See the needles in there, little roller needles? We'll just keep that together. There's also a thrust bearing on the back, which is pretty cool. Don't see that in the 356 transmission. Yeah, that's not coming off until this guy comes off. So those will come off together. This might shoot off, so I'm gonna put this big blanket underneath here, and I'm also gonna just duct tape on this gear because I don't want something to slip and nick that on the way out. The likelihood of damaging these hardened races is pretty small, so I'm just giving it some light taps just to try to slide this off. If this doesn't work, then I would probably just loosen this whole carrier and pull on that. But I don't think this is a press fit here. It's coming off a little bit. I can't take anything else off here. This is internal. So now it's time to probably loosen these cover bolts and go ahead and pull the whole thing off. Let's see if this pops off. All right, a little bit of sludge on the back of this. Now we just go around and pull all this apart. Okay, this part here, this pivot, just barely clears. All right. We'll take this whole thing with it. All right, that's off. Now we can really get a look at the internals of this thing, and it's just a lot bigger than the 356. The shafts are bigger, the gears are wider. This is first, second, third, fourth, and a little bit of discoloration, a little bit of schmutz in there, build up, that kind of sludge. There's some sludge in there, so this may not have ever been a part. I don't know. You can see some carnage right here. I'm not sure why these are chipped. That's kind of weird how that's chipped right there. That could have been where the piece is from. But why it would chip right there, I am not sure. But all the gears themselves look perfectly fine. There's no pitting or wear or anything like that in the gears. But I just want to try to shift it into, this is the third and fourth selector. So as I go from third to fourth, just want to get a feel for how much pressure there is. So that is fourth gear, and that's third gear. Let's go back to neutral. That's neutral, or I thought it was. So I can stop the pinion shaft. And then going into third gear, yeah, it's pretty simple. So what's happening when I drive the car is it goes in pretty easily and it comes out pretty easily. So not a lot of pressure holding it in. So I think because the third synchro is so worn that there's just nothing to hold it in the slider. Let me show you a close-up of this third gear synchro. It's completely worn. Fourth gear is also worn, but not as bad. And I think that's why it'll stay in fourth gear, but not in third gear. So my hunch is that it needs a new slider, which is this piece, and it needs a new synchro to solve the problem. There's just not enough interference between the synchro and the slider to hold it in gear. We can also check out these detents because that's what's holding a lot of the spring pressure. So I'm going to pull this out and we'll try to shift it without the detents and see how that feels, because that'll be truly the slider on the synchro, and that'll tell us a little bit more, I think. Our aluminum washer, big spring, some gunk in there. Yep, get a magnet. Oh, there's the ball right there. It's a long torpedo thing, so keep that together. Doesn't look like anything else is in this one. When I move this slider, the detent is no longer a factor. So now, yeah, it pops right out. Fourth gear, let's see. Fourth gear has got a positive snap to it. Third gear does not. Super easy to come out of third gear. In order to fix this though, it does require to take the whole input shaft out, which I want to take it off anyways because I have no idea why there's all this chipping right here. The other thought is perhaps these gears, which is second and third, perhaps these shouldn't be able to move as much as they are, because when it goes into third gear, if this gear is just moving out of the way, it's got to travel further, and maybe it's just not able to clip into gear all the way. So it could have something to do with these bites taken out of the shaft. Leave a comment below if you guys know what's up with this broken input shaft. I also want to measure this spring and make sure that this is the correct length and there's no parts missing here on this detent, because the detent does affect how much force there is going into third gear. So I want to check that out too. Just wanted to get an idea for what parts I need to order so that I don't have anything stopping me from putting in the 3.2 liter engine.
Let me know if you guys want to see more details on this 915. I know that the 741 356 transaxle wasn't that popular with you guys, but just leave me a comment down below. Let me know if you want to watch me continue to take apart this trans and replace the synchros and then put it back together.